Welcome to the DroidDevCast, a podcast brought to you by the team at Esper, bringing you the latest news, thoughtful discussion, and insights into all things Android DevOps, and open source software development. I'm your host, Rin Oliver, Platform Evangelist at Esper, and today I'm joined by Alex Canter, CEO at Ordermark, and our co-host for today's episode, Esper COO Shiv Sundar. Alex and Shiv, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, happy to be here.
We're here this week to discuss how online food delivery has evolved during the COVID-19 pandemic and explore why many restaurants are rapidly pivoting to launch ghost kitchens. So with that said, let's get started. Shiv, take it away.
Alex, good to meet you. Big news from Ordermark last week around your TDC funding. To start off, can you talk a little bit about your journey in Ordermark and what you guys have accomplished in the last few years?
Sure. I'm happy to kind of back up to the beginning here. So my family's background actually comes from the restaurant world. I'm the fourth generation of a famous Jewish deli here in Los Angeles called Canter's Deli. It's been in my family's business for 90 years now. And as I kind of grew up taking on different positions in the business, one thing that I focused on constantly was bringing in new technology and adapting the restaurant for the next generation. And along the way, we found a lot of success through third-party delivery, specifically apps like Uber Eats and Doordash and GrubHub, and many others. And each of these systems were designed independently. And so we wanted to think about how we can effectively create one system to manage all of the incoming orders. We had 9 tablets, 2 laptops, and a fax machine in the family business just to manage all those incoming orders. And it was kind of a disaster and an operational nightmare. So really, we wanted to take a step back, reimagine the whole online ordering experience from scratch in a restaurant, and give kitchens a single device that can not only aggregate all the incoming online orders, but also give them a single menu and a single kind of control center to manage their delivery business. And we started building our first version of the product back in 2017 out of the back of the deli, and immediately started finding product market fit and have ramped up quite aggressively over the last 3 years to work with over 5,000 restaurants across the United States, from mom and pop businesses up to large enterprise chains as well. And it's been an exciting journey. Yeah, we've grown the team to over 100 employees now, headquartered here in Los Angeles with an office out in Denver as well. And we're kind of just getting started.
Wow, it's an amazing journey from owning a deli to actually running one of the hottest food tech business in America.
Yeah, well, when you feel the problem firsthand, it makes you very passionate to solve it. So.
Yeah, well, I can see that. One thing about Ordermark and like you guys envisioned food delivery and cloud kitchens way before the pandemic struck. And what was the inspiration, or what was the insight that you guys had that you guys predicted a few years before?
Yeah, so the way that consumers are interfacing with restaurants is changing drastically. Not too different from what happened kind of in the e-commerce phase of retail, where all these brick and mortar businesses had to learn to become digital businesses. And then when people want to shop, they just go online rather than going to an actual store. The same thing is kind of happening in the restaurant world. So when people are hungry now, instead of getting in their car and going to a restaurant, they open up one of the many online ordering apps, browse through and choose their lunch to be delivered to them. And that really opens up this whole new wave and opportunity to create virtual brands that only exist on these online ordering services, that don't have any physical brick and mortar business and location, and service a different category of consumers. So if you're a pizza restaurant, you can actually launch a wing brand and now have 2 ways to reach consumers out of the same kitchen using the same overhead and the same staff. And it's really just a very fast-paced changing industry that we're in right now, especially when you think about the impact that COVID has had on the industry. we foresee, when we looked back, or when we thought about the future of what this industry looks like, we saw this shift happening already, and we envisioned over the next 10 years a growing percentage of these orders to originate on these through mobile orders rather than in person. And COVID has definitely accelerated 10 years of advancement in a matter of months, I would say.
It's pretty interesting. I think our next question was on COVID. You actually answered it. I would actually jump next, and we have seen like rapid transformation in food delivery in the last 8 months, right? Like one of the things that they talk about COVID is like certain changes that happen or digital transformation that happens in this period continues to stay on forever. What are the trends do you think that would continue to accelerate even when life becomes normal post-COVID?
Yeah, well, I don't know if life will ever be normal again compared to what we used to know. I think permanently business travel has changed. The need for offices is different now. There's a lot of companies that are committing to a forever distributed workforce. And that really does change a lot for this industry. I mean, catering is a category that got wiped out this year. I foresee catering looking different in the future, especially office catering. I would say one of the things that is definitely here to stay is that every single restaurant will have some sort of off-premise strategy or percentage of their orders moving forward. Pre-pandemic, I think there were a certain category of restaurants that made more sense for delivery and off-premise. And now you see even like the highest end steakhouses creating some sort of offering that's designed for an off-premise solution. We've seen everything from meal kits to frozen packaged goods to restaurants turning into kind of more like a grocery store offering. I mean, if you would have told me that there were coffee shops selling a dozen eggs, I would have told you that probably would not happen, but now that's happening everywhere. Every restaurant is kind of turning into this local grocery store market offering to support the local community. And I think that moving forward, that will continue to remain the new normal. So.
Yeah, I think makes a lot of sense. A lot of insights into how restaurants are going to transform. I think it will be easier for smaller restaurants than for larger chains, because I think the change is going to be much harder for them compared to the smaller mom and pop shops.
Well, one advantage that the chains have here versus the mom and pops is that they have deeper pockets. They've got private equity backing. Sometimes they've got investors. So they can kind of weather this sort of a storm better than a mom and pop restaurant can. Obviously, PPP funding helped a couple months back, but now that money is running dry, it's really challenging for these mom and pop businesses to get creative and figure out ways to keep their doors open right now. And I foresee more mom and pops not surviving than chains.
Makes sense. What is like when right now Ordermark is like a big brand and they know you, Alex, personally. But when you started off early on, and even what was the message that made people get attracted to Ordermark and consider a completely different way of delivery, right? What was that single message that you actually felt that resonated with restaurant owners?
Yeah, I think what we were really solving for resonated really well with the timing of what was happening in this industry. I mentioned many brick and mortar restaurants learning how to become digital businesses. Many of them were not set up for it, not designed for it. And there's not a lot of products and services and tools to help them along the way. So when we came in and we offered a technology solution to not only simplify the online orders coming in, but to actually enable restaurants to take on more orders, layering in incremental revenue, I think that really resonated well with these restaurants who can all use some extra orders. There were many examples where we had a restaurant that was just using one or two platforms, like only on GrubHub or Doordash. And we came in, gave them a single device to manage all their delivery orders. And then we were able to turn on several other channels for them, which grew their delivery business revenue, sometimes 3 to 10x. based on where they were at before. And I think once they see the return on the investment so immediately, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Makes sense. I think my last question before actually I hand over to Ren. What's next? I mean, SoftBank Series T is a big milestone for any startup, especially at Esper. We are a little few years behind you guys, but it's a monumental milestone for you guys. And has the vision changed? And what are the next amazing things that we can expect from Ordermark?
Yeah, so right now we're really looking at all the ways in which we can make the most impact for our restaurant customers, and how do we move the needle with layering in as much incremental revenue as possible. And one thing that we've uncovered that has been wildly successful, especially in a post-pandemic world, has been the emergence of Nextbite and creating virtual restaurant brands that exist only on delivery, that we can actually turn on out of the back of these kitchens. So we've got restaurants across the country now that have underutilized kitchens, and we're constantly thinking of how can we bring these restaurants additional orders? How do we get more orders flowing into their kitchen? And when we're able to turn on some of these incremental brands that we're doing within the Nextbite portfolio, we're able to make that impact and sometimes layer in $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month in incremental gross sales in each of these brands that we're bringing to these restaurants. So that's been a big area of focus for us as of recently. When we think about the impact that we can make on a restaurant, there's nothing greater that we could be doing for them in this moment, and that's why we're continuing to invest in our brand development process. In October, we launched our first celebrity partnership with the rapper Wiz Khalifa to build a concept called Hotbox by Wiz, which is kind of a stoner brand, but it's very effective in driving that incremental order volume to our restaurants that need those orders. And I can't tell you how many times we've had a restaurant tell us, you're literally keeping our doors open with these extra orders right now, and that makes it all worth it and satisfying, and it's what keeps the team motivated. And I'm so proud of what we've accomplished and the way that we've been able to pivot our strategy and just think about ways in which we can really be helpful to these restaurants who are really struggling in this time.
That makes a lot of sense. And actually, I'm going to step in here and we're going to talk a little bit about ghost kitchens, actually. I saw the term in the show notes, and up until a couple of days ago, I had never really heard of a ghost kitchen. What is it, and why are today's restaurants setting them up? If you're a smaller restaurant in particular, what's the benefit of having a ghost kitchen?
Yeah, so the term ghost kitchen is this new kind of industry term to describe a kitchen that is designed specifically for the purpose of off-premise and delivery. There are a couple of businesses out there that are building additional real estate, almost like a WeWork model, but for kitchens to have an optimized low overhead delivery business. And that is, the reason why it's called ghost kitchens is because you can't physically go to the restaurant. It's something that it appears to be a restaurant when you open up Uber Eats and Doordash, but it's really being made out of a tiny kitchen somewhere or out of the back of an existing restaurant, for example. There's a lot of terms like that have emerged in this world. We aren't really focused on building additional real estate. That's not our goal. It's not what we're in the business of. We actually believe that there's already too much kitchen space across the 800,000 brick and mortar businesses that are in the U.S. That was already too many restaurants to need additional, commissary kitchens or delivery only facilities. We believe more in a strategy where we can leverage the existing infrastructure of a restaurant, like my family's restaurant, where we actually layered in our first virtual concept, which was a grilled cheese brand, out of the same kitchen that we were producing Canter's food. And that enabled us to take on an extra 25, 30 orders a day using the same staff. The rent is fixed, the lights are already on. So it's really profitable incremental order volume that we're layering in by adding a second brand or third brand. out of the same restaurant that's already operating. And that's, it's a really exciting opportunity that's available as an option for restaurants today.
That's really smart. I'm also Jewish, so I'm like, yay. but that makes a lot of sense because that revenue is already paid for. They already have those line chefs. They already have those ingredients. Those costs have already happened. So they can leverage that and create more orders by having that opportunity available to them. Yes?
Yeah, that's really what's happening here is like a restaurant has those fixed costs like we mentioned, and because of that, layering in that incremental order volume is very profitable revenue. Sometimes it could be up to 30% profit margin, which is unheard of in the restaurant industry. Usually a restaurant is looking to benchmarking to make 5 to 10% profit margin on their orders. And even that is a struggle for many restaurants. Most restaurants actually fail within the first year or two. And so, going into something that's already operating and layering in this incremental revenue is a great new tool for restaurants to expand their offering. We always encourage restaurants to be on all the different channels that are available and relevant in a zip code. For Canter's, that was 14 different online ordering systems. But even once we were on 14 online ordering systems, the way for us to then layer in even further revenue was to look at these virtual restaurant concepts and to start layering in more brands so that we're capturing different audiences and reaching new customers that maybe aren't in the mood for Deli today.
That's very true. Last thing, Alex, do you have any words of advice for our listeners that may be in the restaurant industry as to why they should check out Ordermark? Where can they find you? And what would you like them to know most about your platform and your services that you have available to them that can help them do what they do better?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you can find us at ordermark.com. There's all sorts of information on there. But basically, if you are a restaurant that is looking to kind of turbocharge your kitchen, we've got a whole suite of products and services that will help you do that. Some restaurants are already slammed and very busy and don't need extra orders. So, if you're operating and you're happy with revenues and how busy your restaurant is, maybe there's a line out the door. Like, we might not be the best fit, but if you're a restaurant that is looking for ways to handle more out of your same kitchen, that's what we are experts at. That's what we're in the business of, and it's what we focus on when we work with restaurants.
Wonderful. Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it.
Pleasure to talk to you as well. Really nice having you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great conversation today. And if you'd like to learn more, again, you can go to ordermark.com.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the DroidDevCast. We'll be back next week with another exciting show for you. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share this episode on social media. You can also follow us on Twitter at EsperDev and subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest happenings here at Esper. If you'd like to learn more about how to get started with Ordermark and Esper, please visit ordermark.com and esper.io/signup. You can listen to the DroidDevCast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Simplecast, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Thank you again for listening.